Hi, this is Carol Paul. I'm calling from the Michigan Reading Association.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. This is my very first podcast, so I hope that you're patient with me.
It's totally cool. I'm totally patient. I know you can probably hear a little noise in the background. I'm actually in a car, so I apologize. That's your first podcast. May have a little white noise in the background.
That's okay. That's all right. We just appreciate your time. So we're on the line with New York Times bestselling author Jason Reynolds, author of Ghost, Patina, All-American Boys for Everyone, Long Way Down, Sunny, As Brave as You, When I Was the Greatest, The Boy in the Black Suit, and many, many more writings. Jason Reynolds, how are you today?
I'm good. It's, what time is it, 9-something in the morning?
Yep.
I'm good. I've been up for 3 hours, but I just got home from New York a little while ago, so things are all right.
All right, that's great. So I wanted to get down to what our listeners really want to know about. And can you describe Ghost for us? What is that story about, and what does it mean to you?
Ghost is about a young man named Castle Cranshaw who has nicknamed himself Ghost. And at a young age, he experiences some extreme trauma at the hands of his father. And after this happens, it's in this moment that he sort of, to escape this trauma, he runs, like he literally runs away. And it's in this moment that he realizes that he sort of has a penchant for running. But he doesn't know what to do with it until years later when he discovers that there are people who run for sport, right? That track is a sport that perhaps he could do. And so this tale is a tale about a young man who experiences sort of alienation and isolation, and then finds family on the track, and finds mentorship on the track, and finds friendship on the track, and learns that the only thing controlling and that can stop his life or that can propel his life is himself. And so the question is, as you asked, why is the story important to me? The story has a special place in my mind and in my heart because it isn't necessarily fiction, right? Like the trauma of it all is actually a real story. It's a true story about a very good friend of mine, Washington, D.C., whose father tried to shoot him. And he and his mom ran, and they hid in the 7-Eleven for 2 days. And never saw his father again, right? That's a very real thing. It's a true story. And so this story means a lot to me. One, because we have to discuss trauma in an authentic and honest way when it comes to children, but also because I get to honor one of my best friends in the world who has experienced this, but who has willed himself to triumph in his life. He's an amazing person. He's dealt with it all. He's gone through all of the work to process it all, and has found such happiness and joy in his mid-30s. So it's great.
Thank you for that insight about that story. I didn't even realize that. It brings a lot more meaning to that novel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it sounds like writing energizes you, or does it sometimes exhaust you? What do you think?
Writing, you know what? Writing exhausts me, but writing exhausts me. What energizes me is storytelling, right? So whether it be on page or whether it be face to face, whether it be in music, whether it be film, I just have an insatiable sort of curiosity for storytelling. I have a passion for storytelling. That's it. If you have a good story that you want to share with me, I will sit and listen for hours. And like that's the thing for me. And so writing is just the medium that I chose. It's the medium that feels most natural to me. It's the medium where I feel like I have the most freedom to experiment with things and figure out how to use language to subconsciously create tension and urgency and happiness subconsciously, right? Where the words on the page are affecting you chemically, not just what the words say, but how the words are put together, how the words sort of feel on the page, how the words are formatted, where they fall on the page. I think about all those things, and that's the part that excites me in terms of the actual writing, the technical parts of writing. But at the end of the day, for me, it's just about storytelling.
So, because it's about storytelling, and it sounds like some of the stories come from your real life, have you ever considered writing under a pseudonym?
Never. My mother would never allow for me to take away the name she gave me and give an imaginary person credit for the work I've done, ever. so that's not something that and also the truth is that I'm totally okay with owning whatever it is that I produce. I don't care what it is. If I risque or whatever it is, it'll still be me because that's still a part of me, regardless. Right? I'm a whole person, and I'm complicated, and I'm complex, and I'm nuanced, than everybody else. I'm a human. Therefore, all the parts of me that you see throughout the trajectory of my career, some of the things you like, some of the things that you don't like and will not like, are still a part of me, and I will stamp my name proudly on that which I've made, you know?
Absolutely. It sounds like your mom is a big part of your life. When did you learn that language had power? Because it sounds like language is really powerful for you. When did you first learn that?
I think for me, my mom, I think the moment that changed everything in terms of language having power for me, there were two things. One was the sort of the delving into a versioning at the time, a versioning music, which was hip-hop music, right? So when I was younger, that music was just growing its legs. This is the 80s, early 90s, and I could recognize, I could feel the power of that music, right? When we heard that music come across the speakers, you could feel it viscerally, right? There was a visceral sort of reaction to the way it sounded, to the tones and the timbres of their voices, to the anger sometimes that was coming across the speaker, or the joy for that matter that was coming across the speaker. The words they were choosing to use, or how they put those words together, the storytelling of the parts of it that were spoken publicly that we had been speaking privately. This idea that they were almost like sharing secret, and the whole world could hear the way that we really were and really are, and the way that we speak, and all, you know, that was huge for me. And the other thing was my grandmother passed away when I was 10. So this is the same time that I'm having this love affair with rap music. My grandmother passed away. It's my first major loss in my life. My mother is crying, and she's hurting. The first time I've heard my mom sort of cry is the first time I've seen her sort of broken in this way. And so I write some words on the page. You know, I called it a poem back then. I don't know if I would call it a poem today. But I wrote sort of a couple lines on the page, and my mom sort of read this thing at the funeral, or printed on the funeral program. And I got to watch everybody's reaction. I got to see my mom use this thing as a totem for healing. Even if it just came from the fact that it was coming from her son, or even if that's what it was that was driving the sort of feelings she had, and not necessarily the words. For me, at 10 years old, I felt like the words were fixing something. I felt like the words were creating a salve on an open wound, and not just with my mom, but like seeing a wave go across the church when she read it at the funeral meant everything to me. And that's when I sort of became sort of addicted to the feeling of like, wow, there's something that I can do. I can affect change if I can figure out how to manipulate language.
Wow. What would you tell your younger self then? So what would you tell yourself at 10 years old as a writer?
That raw talent isn't enough. That having something, that being able to sort of sit down and do something because you can do something isn't good enough. It's not enough. That there's going to have to be a lot of work involved, and that work is not always going to be fun or praised or praiseworthy for that matter. And that it's a part of the process. Right now, I live by a mantra that I started, 10 years ago, saying to myself, and that mantra is process before progress, right? Process before progress. That there's a process to everything. There's no skipping steps. There's no resting on any laurels. People say, well, why do you work so hard? And the question is, well, what else is there for you to do? Why not? Right? I want to get better. I want to be better. I want to best myself every single time. And that takes work. Being decent or being good at something isn't enough. There are a lot of people who are good at a lot of things, but the energy that you have to pay into it, right? So the energy that you put into this thing is what you'll get back. You have to be faithful to the process, right? To the process of working on whatever it is that you're doing. For me, it's this.
So what does literary success look like to you?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I think it comes in various forms. I mean, there are moments where I feel really successful, and those moments usually have to do with the way that young people are reacting to the things that I write, right? Kids who are saying, like, yo, this is the first book I read, or, this book changed my life, or whatever it is that young people are getting from, or anybody, or adults for that matter, are getting from the things that I make. But that's fleeting, right? Like, that feeling, when they say that to me, that feeling is fleeting, right? There are other moments where you get an award, and you're like, this is it. I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't want to win the National Book Award. I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't want to achieve some of the bars that I've set for the goals that I've untrue to tell you that that's not the case for me, because it is. But even if I get those things, does that mean that I'm still successful? I'm not exactly sure. I have a National Book Award medal in my house, and it's in the corner with dust on it. I have awards, Turkish Award and the NAACP Image Award, all these awards stacked up on a couch in boxes in my house. So I can't promise you that any of those things will make me feel successful. I don't know. I honestly can't tell you. What I will say is the closest I felt is the day that my mom turned to me and said, "It feels really, really good to know that if anything were to happen to me, that you could take care of everything." Now that was as close as I felt to any notion of success.
It's a good feeling when you can take care of your parents, for sure.
It is. Yeah. She doesn't have to worry anymore, right?
Exactly.
Like that means the world, and she knows that she doesn't have to worry because of service work, right? So that the work that I've created, that I'm trying to give service to young people and to the world around me, and I think that makes her feel even better about not having to worry, you know?
Mm-hmm. Jason, I took a look at your website before we started this podcast, and on your website it says Jason Reynolds, writing and whatnot, and I love that. Your website seems a little bit informal, but it tells a lot about you. But I noticed you had this one link on there, and it's the procrastination. So can you tell me how many half-finished novels do you have out there? Do you have some things that you're working on right now?
I do. I have 2, 3, maybe 4 things cooking at the moment. And, you know, there are some false starts along the way. There always are. You got to work things out, right?
Sure.
So there are a few things that are just kind of in the can that I may go back to. There are probably 30 or 40 picture books that I just can't quite figure out how to get right. I'm still working on that, trying to figure out the secret of the picture book, because I do want to do a few of those. I'm fascinated by the medium.
Yeah, we'd love to see it.
You know, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working on that, and I have a lot of those that have just failed miserably. You know, so I mean that's sort of what it is. I mean, that procrastination tab is an interesting thing on the website, just because what I really wanted that to be is, it's not procrastination for me, it's procrastination for whoever's looking at this site. I think what that is if you want to see what's happening inside my brain, here it is, right? This is the way my brain is working. These are the things that I find mentally, emotionally, visually stimulating, and many of these things make no sense. Some of them are beautiful and literal, right? Like you can see an image of some children, or you know, and some of them are just shapes and colors. Some of them are really interesting design ads from the 1970s. I'm fascinated by, right? Like the cleanness and succinctness and decisiveness of the 1970s advertisement. Mm-hmm. I'm really fascinated by, right? No frill, nothing extra, right? Like a lot of it's like typeset, because I love different typesets. I'm fascinated by people who create font, create actual letters, right? Like the way the letters look on screen or on print. You know, all kinds of, you know, just things, ephemera, right? Mental ephemera for me that will give you an insight to who I am, what I'm interested in, and why you see oftentimes such random quirks when it comes to my characters in my books. You know, whether it be the obsession with the sunflower seeds and Guinness Book of World Records and Ghost, or whether it be, you know, the birds and As Brave as You, or you know, the Polaroid and the Boy in the Black Suit, or knitting. And when I was the greatest, I mean, you'll see all of that kind of stuff by looking at that particular tab, right? That's who I am.
Great. Well, if our listeners want to find your website, they'll go to jasonwrightbooks.com. And I just wanted to thank you so much for your time today, Jason. And I don't want to keep you any longer. I know that you're on the road. So thank you very much. Is there any other words that you'd like to say to our listeners?
Not only that I love them. You know, I love our children. I love the people who are working to support our children. And so for anybody out there who falls into those categories, just know that I love you, and that we're in this thing together, and let's keep it working.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much for your time, Jason, and I look forward to seeing you at the Michigan Reading Association Conference on Sunday, March 18th.
All right, I'll see you soon. Peace.